and a picture of you in the group would be great because we'll post it on social media and online.
Yay! Okay, that's so good. Yeah, can I get you to send, just because we're going live in 10 minutes, everything that is being said to me at this point, I will forget.
Yeah, I'll send you an email. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yay!
And we'll also have this recorded. And yeah, so how many countries do we have? We have, oh yeah, so Badar, we want you to come and say hello because they want to see some Canadian youth. You don't have to stay the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah, because Badar is getting ready to host the French. Do you want to come say hello? Here's the...
On veut parler, on veut parler.
Allô?
Bonjour.
Ça va bien? De quelle école?
Queen Elizabeth High School.
Ah, ok.
Yeah.
Ah, donc l'école de Terry.
Oui.
Bonne connexion.
Yeah. Yeah, and so who else? So I'm just looking at the... Everything is pretty straightforward.
Donc, est-ce que qui va animer la session en français?
Moi.
Moi? Toi?
Oui.
Si tu as besoin de l'appui, je peux aider aussi.
Ok, merci beaucoup.
Okay.
I think it would be great, and feel free to jump in, especially in that French one, because it's a little more, it's hard for me to keep, we have so much content for the English one, it's not even funny. And for the French one, it's a little bit tighter in terms of content. We have lots of student work. So we have a student from Australia who's sharing her art again, just in Australian. She speaks French. And then we have one of the actually a UNESCO facilitator from Indonesia who's here.
Okay.
So we have someone like Monique. And
well, it's actually really great that the English session is actually happening first. I thought it was the other way around. I think it was just looked at my notes. But we'll both be taking lots of notes. And if I can summarize or offer some context in French as well from the English session, essentially. We can copy and repeat.
I'm not even going to be there for the French session. Like, I'm off on the side. I'm going to be here. But Badar is on the screen. And so it's good to have someone whose language is French as opposed to someone whose language is not. Okay, I want to see, just as more people are coming in, do you have any questions, Isabel or Marielle?
No, I think we'll just, once we do the intro, just tell us when we're on, and as I said, I can offer more support on the French.
Okay, perfect.
Self-view.
Hello, taking it global.
Hi, Terry. How's it going?
It's going so awesome. And you?
Good. So this is Monique. This is our artist who's going to be speaking today. Monique, this is Terry. Hi, Terry. Hi, Renee. How's it going? Good. How are you? Good.
Monique, thank you so much for sharing today. This is so wonderful. As you can see, we have some art. We actually have, so the young lady who was part of a team that created the mural behind me is with us.
Cool.
So she'd love to get your feedback on what they've created. And then the art teacher from India, whose artwork is on the right, is also joining us live today. So we have great representation from artists. And
that's awesome.
Talk a little bit about, it's going to be a little bit difficult because they're not digital, so I'm going to have to kind of move the camera, zoom in a bit. But each of the, so you'll have about 15 minutes to talk about whatever, if you talk for 10 minutes, if you talk for 17 minutes, that's fine, right?
Okay.
And then we'll give students a chance to ask you a question. We'll have one round of that. And then we'll give them, on the second round, we'll give them a chance to either ask a question or share some of their art.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Fabulous. And just get you, if you're able to give them feedback on what they've done. Now, some of the schools, we're going to give them an option of not only sharing their art, but we have some questions that I'm going to pose to them right at the beginning. And so they also have the option of answering one of those questions. Really, the kind of one of the big themes about today's event is that sometimes we have all the knowledge we need, and everything we need to convince people's heads is there. But the reason they still need convincing is because it hasn't gotten to their hearts. And essentially what art does is it touches people's hearts as well as their heads. Like, it's the whole package. And so wanting to give students an opportunity to either express that knowledge through their head or through their heart, and then to have your feedback as an artist, what they share. Because I think the artist's eyes are what's I think is what are key to us actually making a difference with this. Okay. And so I'll just be there to moderate it and to like when somebody, Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Terry, one last thing, Monique, she sent some images. I think Lindsay's sending them in an email. Either I can connect with my computer, but we are hoping to screen share so that when she's sharing and talking about her work, the students can see it nice and clean and clear.
Yes, that's so good. I think you're right. That's so important. Ideally, if you're able to control that on your end, because I have a couple of variables over here, that'd be super. Do you want to practice screen share?
Yeah, I can definitely screen share. That's not a problem. I'll just hook up my computer.
Okay, cool. As soon as it's hooked up, if you just do a practice one time, then we just would make my poor little heart feel a little better.
Good. I just gotta grab something, Terry. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I'm just gonna.
Yep. Just at the beginning to say hello.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted. Oh, here we go. Tom Hart is joining us today. Hello, New Brunswick. Oh, to our friends in New Brunswick who just joined us, we're happy to have you here. We see your audio still has to be activated, but we're excited to have you on board. As you can see, we are joining you live from Germany as these students prepare to share their work at the UN Climate Change Conference. And as you also can see, there's art everywhere. And so we'll love to have you sharing your art as well. Slide decks. All right. Yes.
Terry, is there anything you need for the ocean-wide like the conditions out there?
Yes, could you?
I think it's 7.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
You want the
I would think. So to our. Yes, if you actually want to send a text to Lindsay about that, that would be great. Yeah, that's super. So Tom, we're still waiting for your, to our friends in New Brunswick, we're waiting for your audio to come in. We can see that you're connected, and that's fabulous.
I don't know if they're going to be able to see us or not.
There we go. Hey.
I was gonna say, where? That one is sitting right here.
Maybe.
There was another. You say maybe you'll be able to see me.
Well, we might.
Oh, no.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Hello from Germany. How are you? Oh, hey, we can see something.
Oh, let's not see me.
Oh, here we go. And hello, we have another World UNESCO school joining us from New Zealand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you need to know that in New Zealand, I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3, so that is amazing. These are global citizens, and we're so happy to have them here. And here we go. We also have, so Mr. Hart, I can see your classroom, and I can see your ceiling. It is a great ceiling.
Turning the computer around. There we go.
Okay, hey, look at these students. Hello, how's it going? We're so excited that you're here. So, can you, Mr. Hart, can you hear me on your side? Look at that great T-shirt.
I can, yes. Oh,
perfect. Oh, look at that. That's holy cats. That's gorgeous. All right, take a look. There's some art, ladies and gentlemen, that you will hear about later from our friends who are joining us from Toronto. And so we have an artist who's going to be sharing there, Monique, Aura. I'm so excited to see more of this and to hear more of this. Okay, I do want to check, do an audio test with our friends who are from New Zealand, though. Hello, New Zealand. Let's see, Gwyneth. Now, Gwyneth is an expert. She has been working with a group of students from across the planet for the last 3 months, and she would actually be with us in Germany, but unfortunately, they have their final exams right now because it's almost the summer break. Is that strange? For us Canadians, when we just have snow outside, and then our New Zealand friends are just about to get ready for their break. What's the weather like in New Brunswick? Cold. Okay, cold is all relative though. So is this cold? Is it like +5 outside? Is it -5? Is it -15?
Around 3.
Yeah, it's like 3 degrees right now.
Okay, but it's like it's freezing at night kind of thing.
And in the morning.
Below 0.
And in the morning. So I mean, if it's freezing all day long at this point, you know. But it's not below 0.
That's all right.
Okay. No, yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so Gwyneth, New Zealand, how are you? Oh, you know what I'm gonna do actually is if you guys want to go into your if you let your mouse kind of drag over top of your screen, you'll see it says mute and then it says more. So beside your name, I want you to go over more, and I'm gonna get you to I'm gonna rename you. So I want you to rename yourself. So Kalyani is actually joining us from India. So I'm gonna call, Kalyani is going to be India, Kalyani's iPad, right? And then we have a unit that's here from Germany, so it says Germany. And the Canadians, I want you to so I'm gonna go over top of where it says Il Vert, and I'm gonna say Ottawa, Canada, Il Vert. So you can see now, whenever Ottawa speaks, it doesn't just say Ottawa, or it doesn't just say Il Vert. I know that she's in Ottawa. So to our friends in New Brunswick, I encourage you to try to figure this out. How can you, so if you let the mouse, and now I am going to, I know it's already on the hour, but we have like schools joining us from Peru, I'm thinking the Nigerians, who are also a UNESCO World School, that they've had some problems with their internet. So I don't know if Nigeria is going to be able to join us. But we are going to have, so Auckland's Girls' School, if you are sharing New Zealand, we can't, we still don't have, we still can't hear you. So Gwyneth.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Gwyneth, we can hear you. That's so awesome. But you're very quiet.
It's like 5 a.m, so I'm still in bed.
That is so awesome. Do you guys hear that in New Brunswick? It's 5 a.m. and yet she is still here. Gwyneth, you are such a rock star. It's not even funny.
Canada.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Canada, you got it. Good work, Mr. Hart. Okay. Hey, way to go. Okay, I can see you, New Brunswick, Canada. Excellent. All right, so Queen Elizabeth High School, come on, where's yours? So we have Edmonton, who's also here, and Gwyneth, who's up at 5 o'clock in the morning. God love you. You are such a trooper. And fortunately, the other events are a little bit later, so that's, you don't have to get up. Just so everybody knows, Gwyneth was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning for an event we had, the global event that we had for this paper the students are writing, they're here on now. And so she's always been a trooper. So hopefully we're waiting for our friends. We're gonna give everybody till about 5 minutes after the hour. So that's 2 minutes left, all right? And then we're gonna get started because we want to, there's a lot to do. And now, do I have my co-hosts? They can come on up. And then what I'll do is, because we're gonna get started. Actually, and look at these great teeth. Now you don't know, you can't see this here, but I got here. This is a T-shirt, and it says on it. Actually, I'm gonna get one of my students who are gonna come and tell me about it. We have a Canadian who is here joining us. Why don't you come on up, Badar?
I'm the model.
He is the model. That's right. Okay. So Badar is he's going to host rather than, so the French people are especially lucky. The English people, you have to listen to me. But Bedar is going to be hosting the French session. So Bedar, tell us about this spectacular T-shirt you're wearing.
Well, it's one of our logos for the project that we're doing here in Germany. Decolonize, decarbonize, and obviously you can see that. Looks beautiful.
Okay, and what does it mean? Oh my goodness, that's not the right button. Sorry guys, so much for the illusion of our set. Oh, there we go. There's the projector. And we're slowly going up. Here we go. There we are. Hello. Hi. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in on you, Bedar, so people can look more closely. Look at that T-shirt. There we go. All right. Tell us about, so decarbonize. What do you mean decarbonize, decolonize? What does that have to do with with climate change?
Well, to explain the T-shirt first, this is on the back of a turtle, and which represents the Earth.
Turtle Island, like North America, right?
Yeah.
Another word we have for North America. Many indigenous people call it Turtle Island. Yep.
And then it shows how everything cycles through it and how amazing it is. So.
And then what do you mean? So decarbonize, but then decolonize. What does that have to do with?
Well, for our project, we're talking about how current decolonization and the effects of colonization, how that leads to climate change. So, which is really interesting.
Colonization. What is it? I mean, colonization ended 300 years, 400 years ago, didn't it?
And a lot of us think it did, but
you're saying it doesn't?
I didn't. No,
okay.
I'm saying it didn't. What I am saying is that a lot of aspects of colonization is still continuing to this day, and it leads to climate change. For example, the colonization that's happening in like indigenous communities, we're still technically colonizing those indigenous communities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it just about indigenous communities?
No,
or those
not just about indigenous communities. But
what would be another example of colonization outside of indigenous communities?
For example, countries in Africa relying on European countries to make their decisions. And stuff like that.
How do countries in Africa rely on countries in Europe making decisions? I'm like drilling you. Okay. Like seriously, you're like not getting any. This is good because he's got to answer these questions at the as they present here in Bonn in 2 days.
So when we so if you look back, you can see that when the colonizers came to Britain, they really just kind of took control and. Yep. So then, when countries today in Africa, they choose to listen to European countries because they believe that they would make a better decision. And another example actually is economical colonization, where a country overinvests in another country and they're able to take control of that country through because essentially have invested in that country. They're able to take control almost. They have the influence.
Okay, all right. Well, this is it sounds like a fascinating conversation, and one that we might allude a little bit on. So yes, so we do have to have. So what we'll make sure is that when my co-hosts, when my friends who are joining us from, we have students who are from Kenya, we have students who are coming from all across the planet. We really got to make sure that I'm not the only person who talks loud. Because I love to talk loud. And so we want to hear everybody who's speaking. So so that's good. Thank you. You know what? We're going to get started. And when our friends from Saskatchewan and our friends from Peru join us, that's exactly when they join us. Because I want to make sure we get through and get to spend some time on this art and get to learn a little bit about what's going on. So we are going to hear, we're going to go across to all of you guys here very shortly. And but we will start the event formally now. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Terry Godwaltz, and I'm with the Center for Global Education, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our United Nations Conference. Let's try that. We're going to try this one more time, except without a zooming in on my shirt. How does that sound? Okay, good times. Okay, a little bit more. You can do it. A little bit more. Come on, camera. There we go. All right, so we're going to try that one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Terry Godwaltz. I'm with the Center for Global Education, and it's wonderful to have you all joining us here for our ASP.NET Schools live from the United Nations Conference, in which we talk about ideas and innovation from youth on climate change. And so we're going to be talking about arts. We're going to be talking about ideas. We're going to be talking about many different things that's going on. Those of you who joined us before the actual start of the event, we talked to Badar a little bit about his project that he's involved in and UNESCO schools from across the planet are involved in, called Decarbonize, Decolonize. But that's not what today's conference is about. Today's conference is about so much broader of a topic in terms of ideas and innovation that young people have in their communities, whether those communities happen to be in India, whether those communities happen to be in New Zealand, whether those communities happen to be all across the country of Canada. We have 6 countries, count that, 6 countries that are going to be here represented in today's event. And we are thrilled to have everybody here. So let's meet who we have here. And in order to do that, we're going to start on the east coast of Canada. And we're going to hear from our friends at St. Stephen's High School. Tell us a little bit about where you are in the country, what grade you are, and maybe if you have an example of an idea or an innovation your school has around climate change, we'd love to hear it. So New Brunswick, over to you.
Yeah, so we are a group called Green. We originally started off as an English class. And in our English class, our teacher asked us a question. She asked us, how would you like to change the world? We started off with a small photo essay project, and we grew it from there. One of our classmates did his on the effect that plastic water bottles had on the environment and the world. So we took that and we decided that we're going to use that to find a way to change our community, our school, and our town. So our first step was to figure out why are kids in our school consuming so many plastic water bottles. So we found out how many they actually were consuming. We found information on where they were getting them from, whether it's from vending machines, from Irving across the road, or bringing them from home. So we did a lot of research. Then we wanted to know why weren't kids just bringing their own water bottles and drinking from the fountain. And a lot of them said that it was because our water didn't taste as good. So we compared the two. We compared plastic water bottles, the water in there, to our fountains in a blind taste test. And the fountains did better than the plastic water bottle. So now we're working on kind of taking away the negative stigma around our town's water and encouraging people to use plastic water bottles. We're doing this by, we got everybody in the school their own reusable water bottle, and we're doing a lot of presentations to teach them about the negative effects of plastic water bottles and the positive effects that you can have by not using them.
Brilliant. Let's hear it for New Brunswick. Welcome, New Brunswick. Okay, now we're going to go across to another one of the Canadian UNESCO schools who's joining us from Edmonton, Alberta. Hello, Queen Elizabeth High School. Queen Elizabeth, over to you.
Hi. So, hello, my name is Andrew. I'm from Queen Elizabeth High School. I would also like to say hi to Badar, who is also from Queenie. So from what we've done this year, I honestly have no idea.
Water filtration.
Like, so we partnered with OceanWise for to get a project where one of the things that we did was we made a water filter, one with dirt and one with gravel, and then we used that and a coffee filter as a filtrate for the water, and it actually provided some pretty clean water.
Oh, very cool. All right, welcome, Queen Elizabeth. Good to have you here. Woo-hoo! Now, we do have friends from Saskatchewan who are going to join us, hopefully Bethlehem Catholic High School. They're not here yet, so we're going to come to them later. And we have another school who's joining us, but a very exciting school we have a little bit farther away at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's go across to our friends joining us from Auckland, New Zealand. Gwyneth, over to you.
Year 11, which is like 16-year-olds in New Zealand. And for the past 2 years, our school has taken part in the Enviro Challenge. And first year, we focused on like compost and making sure everyone had the right bins. So we redesigned our bins and we created 3 new bins with different colours. So students would be able to know where their rubbish was going, like whether to landfill or compost or whichever. And then this year we focused on bees and how they positively impacted our ecosystems and why we need them. So we got 3 new hives and we've really focused on them. So our school's not focused much on climate issues, but more environmental issues. And yeah.
Brilliant. All right. So, yes, well done, New Zealand. So we have 3 more. We see we have young artists, young people who are joining me here. They are also from World UNESCO Schools. Isn't this awesome? So we have New Zealand World UNESCO Schools. And we have, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Kenya.
Good. So I'll move a bit now, nice and loud, like to the back of the room.
I'm joining from Kenya, St. Austin's Academy.
Okay, now tell us a little, is there some interesting innovation you have for the environment that you'd like to share?
In Kenya, deforestation has been going on for a long time, which has led to a drop in the amount of rainfall, and farmers can't predict when to farm. And so with an organization, we've planned to plant 10,000 trees from today until 11th of November.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And we have, you know what, I'm gonna hold off from our Australian artist, because this piece of art you hear behind you, you will actually hear from her then. But we have a friend from Slovenia joining us from another World UNESCO school.
Yeah, so I'm Marko, I'm from Slovenia, a small country in Central Europe. I come from the Gymnasium 3 high school. What we did, we have a project in our school that the second graders teach first graders that come each year about what they did last year about researching different stuff like water pollution, deforestation, climate change in general. And after they teach them, they pass on, they tell them, now you're gonna research that, so you're gonna raise up your own awareness and education. Then they plant a tree, and each year we plant a tree, so now we have 7 trees poking out in our parking lot. But furthermore, this year we finally got the funds to renovate our roof, and we actually plan to make solar panels on it.
So let's hear it for our schools who are doing the right ideas. Okay, I'll let you come. You guys can sit down for now. Now we're gonna come back in a second. So right now we've heard lots of ideas, but we're also talking about some art. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's so important is that we have all the ideas and knowledge that we need in this world to make this challenge, but for some reason, the journey is not making it from our heads where the ideas are and down to our hearts. And so one of the key partners in this event is the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. And they had a vision to go beyond just talking about those ideas and wanted to engage in the art side of this. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to our friends at the Canadian Commission, and then they're going to share a little bit about what the Commission is doing and the importance of the conversation we're having today amongst World UNESCO schools. Over to you, Isabel.
Hello from Ottawa. It's starting to get cold here, so thanks, Terry, for organizing this. It's so exciting to see everyone around the globe. So I work at the Canadian Commission for UNESCO with Emmanuel.
Bonjour, hi.
And I have the education file, and one of the most exciting part of my job is actually supporting, as a national coordinator, our UNESCO Associated Schools Network. And the big theme this year, so schools will take on a lot of projects related to UNESCO and United Nations, but it's actually around climate change. So I'll just show you this, if you can see. This is kind of the core publication that we're testing in 10 Canadian schools, and it's being piloted also in 25 different countries, so 250 schools around the world, and it's really looking at getting climate ready, a guide for schools on climate action, and we know that a lot of schools in Canada do amazing work around sustainability and climate change, as we heard from what's happening in Queen Elizabeth High School and also in St. Stephen's. So basically, we just want to highlight this across Canada and also internationally with the network. And we're very excited to be partnering with the Center for Global Education and the youth delegates that are at COP23, particularly because their theme of their project is very similar, decarbonize, decolonize. Within the Canadian context, reconciliation is a big theme as well for us. So both of those themes partner quite nicely. And of course, arts is a great way to discuss these issues and also share great examples about what's happening in schools. So we're excited to hear the conversations, hoping to get to hopefully those youth delegates in Vaughan get inspired by what's happening around the globe and share that with the rest of the conference. I just came back actually from Paris for the UNESCO General Conference, and there's obviously a lot of excitement. I was really surprised by seeing how all the other countries were really invested in the UNESCO school network. So I think there'll be a lot of more international collaboration, and we hope that our friends from New Brunswick will soon join us as part of the network. So we'll see if you have any questions. Mark Perry, I know, is doing some publicity and promotion there as our New Brunswick coordinator, and as well, we're trying to connect in Canada and globally through this video conference. So thanks.
Oh, you got the cups.
Sorry guys, that was my fault. I didn't press unmute. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go across and hear from our artists, we want to tell you a little bit about what we're actually doing here in UNESCO, here in Germany. And so to give us a quick orientation about what's happening, I'm going to pass the microphone over to my friend Alicia, who's going to talk about the work that goes on around the United Nations Conference on Climate Change. And then after that, we're going to hear from Monique. And then Monique, you'll have the stage for the rest of the conference. And then we'll be sharing about art, and we'll be sharing about student arts and further ideas we have. So Alicia, over to you.
Great, thanks, Terry. So I'm just here to explain exactly what COP is, because you'll see that, especially you'll see it down here on our banner in the front. Oh, and so COP stands for Conference of Parties, and the 23 means that this is the 23rd Conference of Parties that's being held with the United Nations. And the United Nations, you'll often hear it referred to as the UNFCCC, which stands for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And that itself...
Oh, here, I'll go to the next one for you.
That itself, so the UNFCCC was created back in 1992 and actually started working in 1994. So it's been going on for about 25 years now. And one of the really important things, actually, there's two probably terms that you've heard of before. One is the Kyoto Protocol, which was created in 1997, and the other one was the Paris Agreement, which was created in 2015. And these are agreements amongst over 190 different countries from around the world on what they are going to do to reverse or reduce their emissions targets of greenhouse gases over the next so many years. So I created a bunch of slides that you can see on the screen. Some of them are infographics that are really interesting, but I won't go through them. If you'd like to look at them,
Just have a background. Oh, New Zealand. New Zealand, I just muted your microphone. Just so, okay. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so if we look at the first couple of infographics, explain the difference between developing and developed countries that are part of these climate agreements. And the most important thing to remember is that the developed countries like Canada, like the United States, like Australia, they're sort of there to lead the process and to act as mentors for the rest of the group that are implementing all of their target reductions. Developing countries are there to get assistance from the developed countries. So one of the ways they get assistance is that the developed countries donate money to a large pool of funds that is then used by the developing countries to implement some of their emission reduction plans and programs. So you can take a look at those infographics. It kind of explains the link between those various different countries, which is very interesting.
And then we can send that presentation out afterwards. I think that could be helpful.
That's great. But as far as COP23 here in Bonn is concerned, this, like I said, it's the 23rd one of these conference parties that has taken place. It started, today's the 7th, right? Yeah, so it started yesterday, and it doesn't end until the 17th. It's happening in Bonn, which is a little bit away from where we are here in Cologne. And hopefully all 197 some odd countries will send representatives, and they will talk about the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement and what they're going to do to make commitments in the future. And one of the important things to note is, if you see, I pointed to the logo earlier that's just in front of our desk here, that was also on the front page of the slides. Fiji is actually leading this particular conference. They're called the president of the conference, and their prime minister is sort of overseeing the whole thing. And the reason why they were chosen is because Fiji is severely impacted by climate change right now, and it's only going to get worse for them. So they are obviously very interested in the outcome of this conference and what the other countries of the world decide to do.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing. And thank you for the perspective, because we want to set the stage. Because I guess one of my concerns, Alicia, is that we have this knowledge. And this is the 23rd conference that we've had. And yet we still see, we just elected a president in the United States who is essentially a climate change denier. Or if he's not in so much of that, he certainly believes, says that he believes that mankind and humankind, is not responsible for the climate change that we see. So we have all the science we need. Yeah. We've had these conferences for so long. I'm going to stop sharing here. We've had these conferences for so long. And what we want to do with these ideas like you guys are sharing, what we want to talk about today is the fact that in order for us to take these ideas that are in our heads, or maybe they're not in our heads, maybe they need to even get to our heads, and they need to make their way down to our hearts, where our lives and our actions have changed. We believe that art is a core part of that. So we have a piece of art that's here, that's in the background, that some students changed. Thanks, Alicia. Let's have a round of applause. Thanks, Alicia. And we have an artist who's joining us here in Canada. She's actually in Toronto, and I'm so excited to have Monique here, who is going to be talking about some of the art that she has created. And Monique Aurora is Monique, I'm not going to do a very good job, but I'm going to do my best to say your name, and please be gracious with me as I don't do a very good job. Haudenosaunee and Oneida Nation. She is a Haudenosaunee and Oneida Nation in a small town in southern Ontario. She has been deeply and passionately involved in visual arts for 11 years. In 2006, she became a formal study of visual arts at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario. After 3 years of studying in London, she moved to Lethbridge, Alberta, my home province, to complete an undergraduate degree at the University of Lethbridge. She received her Bachelor of Fine Arts in 2010 and returned to Ontario, where she began instructing art lessons for children, adolescents, and adults. Monique currently resides in Toronto, which is where she is joining us, and as both an artist, an art facilitator, and a muralist. She is inspired by the healing journey. I have, and we quote her, I have the passion for community engagement, collaboration, and social change where stories are shared through the art-making process. Through a holistic approach, it is my aim to empower people by honing in on individual strengths. My goal is to build art projects that lead to a deep sense of understanding while connecting through unity, collaboration, and transformation. Monique, this is exactly what we need, right? This is what COP23 is all about. It's about unity, it's about working together, collaboration, and it's about transformation. And so we could not think of anybody better who has that as her mandate, to come and to start this conversation that we have. Yes, we've started talking about ideas a lot. Now we're going to start talking about art. and Monique is going to lead us through that. So Monique, we have some slides on your side, but we invite and pass the microphone over to you to tell us a little bit more about them. Monique, over to you. So you are still muted on your side, Monique, and I'm going to unmute you, so we should be able to hear you. There we go. We do hear you. Monique, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for that introduction. You can hear me okay?
Loud and clear, yep.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to introduce myself in my language, which I'm still learning. It's protocol here to introduce ourselves, to place us where we come from, and our community, and acknowledging our community. Sagoli, Monique, Ora, Niangets, Onyot Aga, Niwa Gahonjo, Hatnawal, Niwa Gitalot. My name is Monique Ora. I am Haudenosaunee, and my community is Oneida Nation of the Thames, and I sit in Turtle Clan. So that kind of gives place to who I am and where I come from. Like Terry had said, I'm an artist, a muralist, and I like to do workshops around artist healing, specifically in connection to the power of art as our voice, specifically thinking about Indigenous people and how we've been using art as a way to share our stories and our voices from the beginning of time. So this is, not new for us to use art as a form of communication and to share these stories. So I'm here today to share some of my artwork with you guys. I'm really excited to share with you, and hopefully it connects with you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Starting off with this piece, which is really important to me. A really important teaching in my community is connected to the three sisters. The three sisters are the corn, bean, and squash, which the girl in the middle, she's holding all three, corn, bean, and squash. And then there's two women on the outside. So the beans, corn, and squash help each other grow. So the whole idea is that of sustainability. So what happens is when the corn's growing, the beans also grow up the stalk, which helps protect the corn. And then the squash is down on the ground surrounding both the bean and the corns, and they also protect. So it's about working together in that relationship between the three sisters. And I take those teachings as well in my day-to-day life with my own sisters and relationship-wise. So the woman on the left is Haudenosaunee. The woman on the right is Potawatomi. So they're both offering tobacco to the water and the land before picking strawberries and any medicines. So that idea of offering and giving thanks before taking is a really important teaching that I try to be mindful of every single time I'm, taking something from the earth. It's about relationship. It's about that reciprocity. You can't take without giving and give without taking. So that's what we're representing in this mural. This was done with my sister, Chief Ladybird, and we did this mural in a school. So we collaborated with high school students, and they helped us paint this as well. There's water surrounding, and water is a topic that's coming up often in this conference. So, I talk about water and include water a lot in my work because I have the responsibility, as we all do, to give voice to the water. And, it's hurting. The water is hurting, and so is the land. So just to be able to talk about that is really important and raise awareness. You can go to the next slide. This one is in connection to a community that I grew up near. So this is Aamjiwnaang First Nation, and I have family in Aamjiwnaang, but I grew up outside of the community. And so this is specifically known as Chemical Valley or Cancer Alley, and the land is still sacred there, but the community is surrounded on all three sides by chemical plants. And the amount of damage that those plants do to the land and the waters there is unbelievable. So I like to create artwork around this to speak for these issues and these challenges. And you'll notice the florals, I do florals a lot in my artwork. They connect to the beadwork that is on the bottom of Haudenosaunee skirts. But the florals in this one, they're not bloomed. You notice how they're closed up, right? That kind of represents the fact that how do plants grow? How do fish survive? How do people survive? With this toxicity of this environment. So I'd like to kind of critically think about how am I representing these florals and what colors am I using to kind of share this message. And you'll notice there's little red dots. Those little red dots are like blood cells or blood memory. So we all have blood memory that's stored within us that connects multiple generations behind us and in front of us. So that's to represent the fact that the land is still sacred there. Okay, yeah, this next one is good. I don't know how I'm doing for time.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. This one is 3 water walkers. So there's a lot of women who are walking for the water, carrying the water, speaking for the water, and carrying that truth of the water. So I created this piece to honor the women in the forefront of doing this work. And they're standing on a small patch of land, but they're surrounded by water. And I think that also reflects how we're made, right? As we are water, so the damage that's being done to the water and the earth is also being done to our bodies. And I like to explore that in the work as well. So the one woman is offering tobacco to the water as well. And tobacco is one of our sacred medicines that we use to offer before anything else. So yeah, I think that's it for that piece. This piece is also about the water. So the musician, he's a musician. His name's Frank Wong. And I created this piece in collaboration with him. And he's singing, but he's using his voice. So it's not just about artwork. It's about our gifts, right? So if you're thinking about music or maybe spoken word, or maybe, your gift is making videos or whatever it is, that is our point to access the change. So he uses his storytelling through his music to share. And then his music is just phenomenal. I encourage you to look him up. And so the florals are coming from his microphone and his mouth, but also his heart, to show that everything that he is sharing comes from there. And then he's putting all of that good energy into the water because it needs healing. And that's what the lines, the roots, and kind of like lightning is coming from his hand, is that those good vibes. Yeah, you can go to the next one. And this one, they go together. So it's they call it a diptych. So the 2 paintings that go together. This one is, so the other one was water, this one's land. So it's connecting the red and the blue are very important to represent that water and the land. And he's doing the exact same thing. So he's putting that good energy into the land, and then the florals are growing from that. So the more love and care and that we put into the land and the water, the more growth and the more positivity and the good that can come out of it. So we really do have to be unified and work together to make that happen. So that's what I like to address through my work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause for Monique for sharing. Monique, that is so the opportunities we have to share art, to me, are honestly, they're my favorite times to come together. And especially when we have such a cross-cultural experience that we're going to engage. We have Australian and Kenyan and Slovenian and Indian and First Nations and Canadian, all these artists from across the planet and idea creators who are together. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open it up for you to take to ask questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to mute the microphone for 2 minutes. All right. So each of the sites, you're going to have an opportunity to ask a question. Okay. So you're going to get 1 round of asking a question of Monique. And for the second round, you can then share the art or the ideas you have. Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe our artists should just speak to artists. I believe our artists need to speak their wisdom into science. They need to speak their wisdom into innovation. And our innovators need to speak their wisdom into art. And we can't live in these solitudes, right? We need to bring these two together. So regardless, if you as a school have an idea that you've created, I want you to share it with Monique so she can speak her wisdom into that. And if you have some art, then I want you to also have the opportunity. But we want to bring these two solitudes together. So this is what's going to happen. You're going to mute for 2 minutes, then we're going to come together. We're going to start in the same order we did the introductions. First, we're going to have, we didn't introduce our friends in India. I'm sorry, India. My apologies, Kalyani. We'll get to you, and I just realized that. My sincerest apologies. So we're going to start with Kalyani, who's going to go first and introduce herself from India. Then we're going to go to New Brunswick. Then we're going to go to Edmonton. Then we're going to go to New Zealand. Then we're going to go to Australia. Then we're going to go to Slovenia. And I think we have everybody covered then. Okay. And so 2 minutes of silence, and then we're going to hear from Ilyani, who's joining us from Kalyani, who's joining us from India. If you have a question for our artist, Kalyani, then you may do that then. Now, after one round of questions, you then have the option of sharing some art that you have created or the ideas you've created. Okay. So we'll enter our reflection time, and then we'll unmute and share together. For sure. So we had a great suggestion here. If you would like to share your art and ask your question at the same time, or share your idea and ask your question at the same time, you can do that as well. All right, so let's go across now the ocean and a continent to hear from Kalyani. Kalyani, do you, as an artist yourself and an art teacher, do you have a question for Monique? Oh, here, Kalyani, I'll help. Oh, good, yeah, we're ready to hear you.
Yeah, all right. It's an evening, so good evening from India. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Hi, Monique. I have a question for you. Have you seen Indian indigenous art? Do you have any idea about the indigenous art of India?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. I would love for you to share.
I just sent Terry an email, some of the artwork made by an indigenous tribe of India. It's called the Warli art, and they tell beautiful stories using a very primitive form of art, using just circles and triangles as human beings. And today's world, the way it's changing for them, they tell painful stories through their artwork, and it's really amazing how they can express themselves about the changing world, the global warming, and how it's affecting them through their art. It still looks beautiful, but it tells a sad story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
You should check it out. It's in. I just sent it. I don't
Okay.
know how to share it on the thing, but you can check it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It spells Varley Art. Did you get the mail, Terry?
Excellent. So yeah, so Kalyani, I'll share it with you.
Okay.
And
You do
then if we have a chance at the end, I'll try to reach over and grab it. It's a little difficult for me to do conference.
Okay.
But I'll
Great.
share it with all the participants. That's a great idea.
Do
Thank you.
that. Yeah.
Okay, let's
Thank
go
you.
across. Now, our friends in New Brunswick actually created a video. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can watch. We can watch what our friends in have created in New Brunswick. And then I invite your, if you want to, Monique, offer them a response to the video that they've created. That would be wonderful. Okay, so here we go.
Starting to serve tap water in the U.S.
No. Did you know?
Did you know? It takes 200 milliliters of oil to make one plastic water bottle. Each year, the amount of oil used to make water bottles is enough to fuel 1 million cars. Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Bottled water is up to 2,000 times more expensive than tap water.
Restaurants are now starting to serve tap water. In the U.S., people purchase 500 million water bottles each week.
Mrs. Summers asked us the question, how will you change the world?
We are green.
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 Globally responsible, eco, education, nation.
We talked to some experts. We talked to the CEO of Dapper Water Bottles. He said it used to be okay to smoke in restaurants, and it used to be okay to drink and drive. It's no longer sexy to do those things.
We want to make it not sexy to use disposable water bottles. It's not sexy.
It's not sexy. To destroy ecosystems.
To waste money.
To pay for something that's already free. It's not sexy.
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy. It's not sexy.
To kill fish with our garbage. It's not sexy. It's not sexy.
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy.
To buy single-use plastic water bottles.
You drink bottled water.
We are green.
We are green. We are green.
We are green.
We are green.
Let's have a round of applause for our friends from New Brunswick. Great job, guys. That was awesome. Okay, so let's go across now to Monique. What are your thoughts?
So first of all, thank you for sharing your video with me. I really appreciate that. I like the way that it was filmed and the way that it was edited and so many voices were shared. I think that that's really important that you guys all had, oh, I see somebody's thumbs up there. That's good. Was that all you? Nice. Yeah. I like how your classmates are highlighting you. That's good. You got to support each other. Yeah, I love the way that that was done. The way that it was like kind of chopped together. I think that that was really effective. It's a really good initiative too. It's really good to be mindful of the water bottles that we're using. The one critical reflection that I made while watching your video was that we do have to be mindful of the fact that some people don't have a choice for anything else but bottled water. I think about some of my family members who they have no choice but to drink bottled water because their tap water isn't clean. It's not safe. They would be really sick, and that's, you know, it's privileged to have clean drinking water. So that's something to kind of reflect on when you're talking about, you know, not using water bottles or using water bottles. I think that there maybe can be some research. I don't know if you guys have done any research around this, and having that conversation and maybe addressing that also through the video. It's important to acknowledge. Yeah.
Our goal was mostly we want to start at our school to reduce the plastic waste at our school first, because we all have access to clean water here, and we're getting water bottles like to our school too. So I think we want to start in our small town, but definitely in the future we'll look at that cannot use water bottles and have access to clean water. We just want to make a small change because we are close to the Bay of Fundy and the effects that happen in our ocean and everything due to the plastic waste that we have. So we just want to start small here, and we want to get bigger.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, go ahead. Anything more that you want to say on your side, New Brunswick? And then we'll go on to the next school.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit actually, about how some people don't have access to clean drinking water. And we do accept that, yeah, in a lot of cases, even people are gonna still drink out of plastic water bottles. But one major part of our project is making sure that they don't just get thrown away into the environment. We want them to be recycled, because where we live with all the rivers and stuff around and all the wildlife, it's pretty sad to go into the wilderness and see plastic water bottles where you wouldn't expect any garbage.
Absolutely. I have one question. Is the video going to be, so this is like I guess a trailer?
Yes, yeah, we are.
Okay.
This project started in late February of last year, and we've been filming every meeting, every
Wow.
So we're going to release it in the summer of 2018. We're going to have a full, hopefully feature length, and we're going to go interview people in our community that are doing good things for the environment. So I'm a filmmaker, so this is like, it's good for me and good for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really proud of you guys. It's really important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Brilliant. All right, great job, guys. Okay, let's go across now. We're going to hop a little bit farther. Actually, you know what? Maybe we'll even hear from our friends here in Slovenia. So Slovenia, come on over. This is a World UNESCO school that's joining us now. Could you tell us, do you have any questions? No, you're also an artist, right?
Yeah, like half time. But like, it's always interesting for me to see artists like this, because when I draw internal thoughts. I try to give internal thoughts onto the page. But this is something where the artist looks at the world around them and sees what is it like, where do I see the problems in it. And the one that I really liked was, I think it was the second one, the one with the chemical plant. Aesthetically it was very pleasing with like the colors, how they mixed and worked, and just the shape of it in general. But what I was wondering, you said that there's like blood memory or something, right? And that right now it's still sacred, but it's just surrounded by chemical plants. I was wondering if like the blood memory can get contaminated, and if that could like make the place not sacred anymore.
So interesting.
Ooh, this is yeah, definitely an intense question. From my perspective, I think that the blood memory is also part of the earth. So if the earth is being contaminated, then so is our bodies, which is the blood memory. So yeah, absolutely, and that's part of it, and that's the pain of it all. So I think that, you know, creating these images and having these conversations and talking to my community members and my family members to almost reclaim as much as we can, whether it's through blood memory or language or through the land, is critical now. So I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, it definitely affects it.
Perfect. Okay, so we have we're gonna have, so we have we're gonna go, before we go to Edmonton, actually we'll go to Edmonton now, then we're gonna come back and we have an Australian artist who's going to share, and then we're gonna have, and we're almost out of time, so we're gonna wrap up here shortly. Our Australian artist is gonna share, and then we're gonna go to New Zealand, and then everyone will have a chance to share something. So let's go first to our friends in Edmonton. Back to you, Canada.
Hi, Terry. Hi, everyone. Sorry, we've got simultaneous events that are happening, so I had to move locations. And our artist that wanted to share their artwork was a little shy, so I'm sharing on her behalf. Her name is Vanessa Bowen, and she created this art piece. Zoom in here.
Oh, yes.
So the United Nations flag is hanging in the background. A very familiar presidential face of Mr. Donald Trump, and he is licking an ice cream cone of the world. I'm not sure if you can see all of the little ice cream drops, but it talks about temperature, deforestation, flood, famine, and extinction. So, yeah, pulling out of the Accords, and this is her kind of feedback.
So powerful. Let's hear a round of applause for our artist in Edmonton. Good job.
Killed it.
Okay, so we'll let our friends in Edmonton run off here, but then Monique, do you have some feedback for our young artist?
That's amazing. Like, I find it like to create artwork like that is very vulnerable. There's so much truth and layers to pieces like that, and I think that should be a mural somewhere, honestly. So definitely keep creating, because like the messages that you have are so important, and I've seen everyone's faces like light up. They're like, yeah, like, so everyone feels it, right? And you're connecting with so many people. So yeah, killed it.
Thanks, Monique. I'll share that with Vanessa.
Great, thanks so much, Edmonton. Okay, so we have an Australian who's now going to come and join us and talk about her art that is right behind us. Australia, over to you.
G'day, my name's Rowena, and I'm going to be briefly talking about this because I don't want to waffle on for a while. But basically, this is showing all of the different types of Indigenous groups around the world, and because the topic, finding out how Indigenous communities are affected by climate change is such a wide topic because there's so many different influencing factors. We picked two. So that's drought, which you can see over here, and flooding. So the artists that put a lot of work into this, they researched what types of Indigenous communities were affected. So for example, Australia, so the Australian Indigenous community, specifically the Aboriginal tribe, they are affected by droughts, and this affects their culture and how they live. And we mainly just wanted to focus on the contrasting colors, so it would make the viewer, notice things a lot more. So like we used a lot of bright colors on the people so people would notice them, and the very polar opposite colors of the orangey red and over here to the blue and green, so using warm and cold colors was pretty effective as well.
Great, good job. Let's hear it, Australia. Good work. Monique, do you have any feedback for our young artist?
Thank you so much for sharing. I've been admiring it the whole time, as well as the pieces on the side. It's drawing me in. I love how you're talking about like the warm colors and the cool colors, because that reminds me of the piece I did with the water and the land, the red and the blue, right? So those kind of colors. Yeah, it's really interesting how we both kind of, like the artist and like we both kind of access that as a point to communicate. Really interesting to note. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Good job, Australia. Now, Monique, you may not notice this, and we're going to run out of time for our second round, but the art that's on the side is actually the teacher who's connecting from India, her students made that. And
awesome.
Yeah, isn't that so good? So I think we owe a huge round of applause to all the art teachers out there for lighting that flame in our hearts. Good job, art teachers. And now we're going to go, and I'm sorry, we're going to have to end after this one, but we're going to go to our friends in New Zealand. New Zealand, over to you. Go ahead. Do you have a question or a comment you'd like to share with us?
Hi Monique, your art is beautiful and I clearly see how it is influenced by your Indigenous culture. but how significant is art in your tribe?
So for me, I call my community a nation or a community. Tribe is more American, I think. So in my community, art is a way of life. So art is in our daily lives. It's how we live. We make items that are functionable and serve purposes, ceremonial. We also, our clothing sometimes that we wear, our regalia is also an art form. Singing, so all of the art is critical for communication, survival, a whole bunch of things. It's very important to my community, and there's so many talented people that it's so inspiring to me. That's where I come from.
So great, thank you. Great question. Before we wrap up, and I know that some of us would there's half people who want to keep going, and then I know I have teachers who, whenever I go overtime, they put them in a difficult situation. So we're going to make sure that we honor the time that we set and that we're going to wrap it up. But we are going to pass it over for one final word, both to Monique, just final words to artists, and then over across to Isabel and to our friends at CC UNESCO to wrap it up. Monique, do you have any final words for our young artists who are here?
I think the biggest thing is just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are the future generation. So for me, just keep doing it. Just keep using your voice, keep using your gifts, because it's working and it's going to make a difference in the future. So thank you, Yanko.
And to our friends in Ottawa, over to you, CC UNESCO.
Thanks again for hosting this event. I was so inspired by all the beautiful artwork. I think it's such a powerful way to speak about climate change. It can be a really polarized idea where we have climate change deniers and people who really believe and are passionate about it. So I think it's a great tool to bring the conversation in a really gentle way with other people. And thank you for, I think this was said by Monique, but art can be very vulnerable. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's really brave of you, and I was really inspired by all the artwork. So thanks again.
It was beautiful. I loved it.
So I just get so excited, ladies and gentlemen. We come together here under the banner of UNESCO on the eve of the big United Nations event. We have 6 countries that were here. We had every continent with the exception of South America represented here today, which is so exciting. This is what we need to do. We need to have these times where we take these ideas, where we take this art, and we come as a planet and share. And I don't think there are any better partners for us to do this with than UNESCO. So thanks so much for sponsoring this Canadian Commission for UNESCO. And we look forward to our French session, which will start in just an hour and a half. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.